Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a quick minute to let you know that we've launched our Patreon site and that you can now become a supporter of the show. The awards in there include artist features on our website and shout outs on the show, as well as open invitations to join fellow patrons in our roundtable discussion episodes. So if you think you might be interested, please take a look at the link in the description or just go to patreon.com/atpercussion, so /AT percussion. Okay, thanks for listening.
Three, two, one.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to episode 254 of the At Percussion podcast. My name is Ksenija Komljenović, and with me are my beautiful co-hosts, Ben Charles.
Hi, Ksenija.
Hey, Ben. Karli Viña.
Hey, Ksenija, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well. Thank you, Karli. And Casey Cangelosi.
Last the best of all the game.
Casey, what happened in music on our release date?
Sure. October 22nd is the release date. And today, the thing I picked was something we've talked about before. And that is that Paul McCartney, I don't know if you all know, but Paul McCartney is actually dead. And the person who we know of as Paul McCartney is in fact an imposter. And I've uncovered some new evidence I want to share. But we talked a little about, I think it was a Judas Priest lawsuit where they went to court over hidden messages in their recordings. And one of the examples Ben said was that the Beatles went through this too. They didn't go through the same extensive lawsuit because there wasn't any deaths associated with it the way it was in the Judas Priest case. But supposedly you play some Beatles backwards and you hear hidden messages and Paul is dead, and there's all this hidden album cues and signals from the Beatles to their fans, and they were just saying that our fans couldn't possibly bear the idea that Paul is actually dead. So we're going to have to have this whole big farce and an imposter to say that he's actually still alive. And some of the things that they said, Paul himself, the imposter himself, rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated, which is a Mark Twain quote, actually. He says, if the conclusions you reach is that I'm dead, then you're wrong because I'm alive and living in Scotland. John Lennon said, what did we do? Stuff him and shave him? How could we do that? I don't understand what it's all about. And Ringo Starr said, if people are going to believe it, they're going to believe it. I can only say it's not true. Now, I don't know about you all, but when I read between the lines of those quotes, clearly they're covering something up.
I thought you were going to end it with and Ringo Starr said, I like cake.
I like cake. So if you read between the lines there, I mean, especially Ringo's.
George being suspiciously quiet here.
And George says nothing? Yeah, right. So there's all sorts of evidence, on their album covers. But, recent recording technology has, or not recording technology, but, digital recovery technology has shown us something new. So I'm going to play this little video for you all real quick. Okay, so here's some new evidence. And, this is slowed down. This is played backwards. And it's enhanced the second time through. So I'll show you where that is. All right, clear as day. I'm gonna do it one more time for you so you can hear. It's saying Paul is dead. Okay, and now here it is with the new digital enhancement, and they've also added some text to point out what's being said. And if you're watching on YouTube, there's something to look at here. It'll help out. Paul is dead. Paul is dead. Ben, Paul is dead. Did you catch that, Ben?
I think I heard it, but I'm not sure.
Not
It's
sure.
so
Here,
weird. It actually sounded like they said Ben's name.
I know. Hey, well,
I mean, it's up for interpretation. I heard something about the how you play the crash cymbals in the third movement of the Bartok.
Is that what it was? Hey, wait, keep listening because it gets a little more specific coming up.
Ben, the Beatles kinda suck, Ben. They're not that good of a band, Ben.
So clear as day, clear as it could ever be, and that's what happened. October 22nd, Paul McCartney denied that that he's dead.
I'm still hearing something about the Bartok, but no, I just wanted to, there's actually a fun little fact about this is that Paul McCartney released a live album in 1993, and it's sort of like a cheeky reference to this. The live album's title is Paul is Live.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, I cried through that one.
Oh, good. It only took me 10 minutes actually to make all that. I thought, okay, how quick can I make this?
And we've lost so many listeners. This was record time to lose listeners because we're definitely feeding them fake news.
Good.
Karli has some real news, I think.
I have a serious thing that happened on this day, October 22nd, in music history. Actually, the original New York Metropolitan Opera House that was on 39th and Broadway opened on October 22nd, so that's pretty cool. And I was doing a little reading about the background here. Before the Met, actually, the only opera house in New York City was the Academy of Music, and the Academy of Music was much smaller, and it was very exclusive. Like, it was built by the old money elite families of New York, and only the most prominent and wealthy families were subscribers, and those were the only people that could go. So when they got together and decided to build the Met, it was twice as big as the Academy of Music. There were 3 tiers of private boxes, and actually some names that you'll recognize, the Morgan family, like J.P. Morgan, Roosevelt family, the Vanderbilt family, these were all families that had been excluded from the previous Academy of Music, and they were all subscribers once the Met opened in 1883. And the first show was Faust by Charles Gounod, and it was a great success. And in fact, the Academy of Music's opera season was canceled 3 years after the Met opened, and it was never reinstated. So I'm sure it was still exclusive to an extent. You know, we talk about like the exclusivity and accessibility of classical music and opera. I'm sure it was still exclusive for many, many years. And in a lot of ways it still is today, but it's interesting to note like that's what brought opera to more people, more audiences in that time. So there's your serious music history on this day from October 22nd.
Thank you for redeeming us, Karli. I don't think you can wash away Cangelosi's sins, even with all of your beauty and brains. But we'll keep trying. We'll keep trying.
Ksenija, can you introduce our guest today, who I believe is dead?
She is timeless. That's how that works. Timeless. All right. So our guest for this episode is calling in from France, but comes from Bulgaria. She was born into a family of musicians. Her father is a famous pedagogue, and we're going to talk about this. And she has gone on to have a stellar career, competing, performing, and teaching across the world. So I'll list an abbreviated list of achievements. She's the first Bulgarian to be awarded the second prize of the 56th ARD International Music Competition in Munich, and the first prize of the 5th World International Marimba Competition in Stuttgart. She has also won the Grand Prix of the 10th International Competition Music and Earth as a soloist, as well as the first prize as a member of the percussion ensemble Accent. This ensemble was founded by her parents, and we're going to talk about that too. She has won the Young Musician of the Year Award in Bulgaria in 2008, and the first prize of the Music Critics in the 18th International Festival of Central Europe in Slovakia. That's just prizes. She has a wonderful duo with Tomaenko. Their album Funambules, published by Deutsche Grammophon. By the way, Funambules, that means tightrope walkers for all y'all who come from countries like mine, and you might not recognize that word. The album is a true work of art. It's gorgeous, and you should check it out. She is the co-founder of the Paris Percussion Group, as well as the artistic director and co-founder of the International Marimba and Percussion Festival in Bulgaria. Wow. Wow. Welcome to the show, Vassilena. I'd like to start the show by sort of annoying Casey. No, actually, but yes, this is a question that Casey dislikes, but it is very, very relevant right now. Because I'd like to ask you to tell us about your roots in Pleven in Bulgaria. I've visited this place, and it's like a little gem. The high school there has a wonderful faculty where your parents also teach, right? And so many fantastic percussionists have come out of there, it seems. What was it like? What was it like to have both your parents as your teachers? What was it like to start off in Bulgaria? Tell us.
Actually, Pleven is really a small city in Bulgaria, and there is nothing to do than playing percussion. So actually, it was pretty like we were practicing all the time. And my parents were pretty cool because they never pushed me for practicing. For example, I started with violin actually when I was 5, and I really wanted to be violinist. Actually, until nowadays, I'm sometimes dreaming that I have to perform in front of full audience hall, Tchaikovsky concerto, and orchestra is playing, and I'm just starting to play, and I just like, actually, I'm not playing violin. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't have a clue about this. And yeah, so I started with this, and they were completely okay. My first concerts were with violin, actually. And after I had a small disappointment with my teacher, because she get pregnant, and when she came back she didn't took me again in her class. So I was like, okay, if she's a colleague of my parents and she does not take me, maybe I'm not so good. So I was listening to my sister playing percussion, and I just copied her during my father was not there, because I didn't want to make not good or something. And finally, after a while, I asked him, can I just play something for you? And you tell me if it's okay and if I can start to practice and be in your students' class. And he just listened and he was like, okay, you can go. And so I started when I was 7, actually, percussion. And after it was really cool because his class has kids from 6 years old until 18. And at the time I was there was Svet Stoyanov that you all know. There was Georgi Varbanov. He's here in France also. And between France and Salzburg, actually, I don't know what he's doing, but he's traveling all the time between both. There were Orlin, Nevian Lenkov. There were Ioana Varbanova. She's in Germany. There were Vladimir Petrov. He's now in Austria. And yeah, it was actually full of so many talented people, and we just, well, I don't know, we just helped so much ourselves, and we were super patient. Papa was really like the padre of the thing. He was like very patient, always practicing with us, being from morning until evening, and yeah, it was really cool actually. Yeah, I missed that time. And I was in Pleven actually now, just 4 days ago. And there were a very good jazz festival now there. And I listened to some of our students, and one of the students of my father now is in Munich, and it was pretty cool. Actually, we just keep always the contact between us, and yeah, we try to meet, and yeah.
I have a question based on the fact that it was like a performing arts school that you grew up in. We talked to Robert Van Sys a while back, and he talked about in the States, basically our music education is like high school band, and that's it. And if you major in music in college, then you take class piano, then you take music theory, you take music history. So
Yeah.
in your education, were you exposed to like music theory and oral skills from a young age? Can you tell us about that training?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I think the music education all over the world is pretty different because, for example, I'm in France, and actually it's also very different from Bulgaria. Here they have a lot of conservatories, but they're like high schools, something like high schools for music disciplines. And they had another school in Bulgaria. We have this Russian system that we have combined the general classes with musical classes. And so almost all the time in the mornings you have your general math, physics and chemistry and I don't know, all the things. And all afternoons are full with music theory, music analyze, acoustic, knowledge about the instruments, your percussion instruments, your like main piano for which is you're obliged to learn it, and orchestra and chamber music, a lot of disciplines. And more you go in the grades, less you have general classes, and you have more and more music classes actually. So it's really very nice because it's in the same place. Now it changed actually. Since we entered the European Union, they completely changed, and now you have less musical classes, and it's more equalized with other schools, but it's still kind of professionalized since the beginning. Did I answer the question?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry for my English. I do.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's way better than Casey's.
Sorry, a Bulgarian accent. You will joke Bulgarian girl speaking English with French accent, actually.
Yeah.
Because I was studying for 6 months in the Juilliard, and everybody was thinking I'm French, actually. But yeah, between French.
Really?
Ben thought Ksenija is from Croatia like several times.
I mean,
Yeah.
impossible to think
Yeah.
that. So uninformed, Ben. I'll buy you a map for your birthday, Ben. But Vasi, tell us about how you decided to go to France or to start studying abroad after being in Bulgaria.
Actually, I knew I'm going to go abroad since I was 15, something like this. At that time, actually, everybody from the class of my father was moving somewhere, and we were doing master classes in Bulgaria, but not only. We were moving in Europe and meeting teachers. And after once somebody somewhere, we are always in touch, and he or she are like, it's very nice for this or for that. So it depends what you want to do. If you want to do orchestra, solo, or whatever, we were thinking about where we can go. And in my case, I was thinking to go in Germany, actually. So I was learning German, and I prepared myself for Peter Sadler class. But I don't know why, I ignore why it didn't work at all. So I was super disappointed. And at that time, we were making a tour with the accent, with the percussion ensemble of my parents. So we were in Austria, Germany, and France for 3 concerts. When we were in Germany, I applied. They didn't take me. And I was super sad because I was like, it was the only place I was trying to go, because we were chatting with Peter Sadler at that time, and yeah, whatever. I was really very disappointed. And so I just came here, and I felt so good, actually. Coming in Paris, it was like a love from first sight for me. Really, I just felt so good. And the person who helped us to come here, who organized the concerts, her name is Chantal Stiliani. She becomes somebody very important for me. She's piano player, and she was in the jury in the competition in Sofia, where I won the Grand Prix prize. And so she knew me in 2003. We came here in the summer of 2004, and by chance, her cousin was percussionist in the Paris Opera, and she was student from Sylvio Gualda. Sylvio Gualda, I think you know him, but at that time I didn't know him, because in Bulgaria contemporary music is pretty taboo. So we never played Xenakis or something like this. So I just arrived, and she was like, "Hey, actually you have to go and meet Sylvio. He's really great," and blah blah. I was like, "Okay, let's go and see." And he just listened to me, and he was like, "Okay, if you want, you can start next week." And I was like, okay, why not? And actually, I was finishing one tour with the Bulgarian orchestra in Japan, because I tried to get some money to study abroad, because difference of standards of life is really killing in the beginning. So yeah, I just finished this tour, and I started in February 2005 here. And after so many good things happened, that I was like, okay, maybe this is my place. But actually, beginning here was pretty difficult. I was playing on the street to earn some money and to be able to live in France. But 1 year later, it was really, really cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so inspiring.
So since we've mentioned Bulgaria a few times, I know that one thing I've heard of Bulgarian music, but I've never actually heard it myself, is that Bulgarian folk music has a lot of interesting meters, like odd meters, 13/8.
Yeah, definitely.
Could you tell us about Bulgarian folk music a little bit, and if that's played into your musical background at all?
Of course. And actually, I can even recommend you, if you don't know the Mysteria, how we say in English, the Mystery of Bulgarian Voices. It's a choir of women, and it is so beautiful. If you don't know, just go and listen. It's really heartbreaking. I don't know if you can say this, but it's like so much energy. Actually, Bulgarian folk music is really very rich because in one time you have at one hand you have all the irregular rhythms. So actually it's dances for us. So 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. Until I know I can dance until 15. After there is 17, 21, blah, 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 all of those. And so you have this irregular groove. And in the same time, you have all the songs that are transmitted from person to person. It's all oral education somehow. And there is a lot of songs without measure, a little bit influence from Oriental music also. So actually it's really very rich, and in my knowledge, it's one of the richest folklore music all over the world actually, because it's still alive. There is a lot of music everywhere, and people really try to do their best to keep it. Actually, when I finished my pedagogical masters here in France, I was working on transmission of folklore music, in particular Bulgarian folklore. And I was trying to find the connection and how can I use the way they transmit it in classical conservatories. So I went there and I was making observation in several schools. And it was very funny because they really don't have notes to write it. They only play all the time. And it was so great. You go in the school and everybody's playing something somewhere. It's completely crazy. And I was just looking in the lessons, and for example, the teacher is playing tagadagudagudam, for example, and the guy is tagadagudagudam, and teacher, no. It's the guy again, it's like, it's the same. No. Again and again, until they have everything. Intonation, ornament, the ornamentation and everything. They just want to listen and to be sure that they're going to keep exactly the same thing. And actually Bartok was one of the first person who went and who write down some of the music that they're playing there. And it's one of the first témoignages, I don't know, first traces of our folklore.
It's so interesting. You mentioned that you said like at least at one point like contemporary music wasn't so big in Bulgaria, and it seems like so much of like especially percussion contemporary music is reliant on interesting meters like Viña, or even looking at something like Rite of Spring, and it seems so often that the students struggle to understand how mixed meter functions, and so like oftentimes I find myself playing like Blue Rondo a la Turk or Overture to Candide just to show like, look, 9, 7, like they can feel totally normal. It doesn't have to feel like foreign or odd at all. So it's great to hear that. And I definitely want to check out that choir you suggested.
Yeah, actually I think that composers just try to make this going back to primitive and going back to the traditions, to the origins. And it's at that time, for example, I'm thinking about Stravinsky, Sacre du Printemps. He's always, everything is done on these irregular rhythms, but actually it's at that time that composers started to go back and to be related and to be inspired of exactly this kind of rhythms. But for a while, I think maybe it was not so, people were not so focused on that, I think. Yeah.
Well, along these lines, we have a question from one of our listeners, Christelle Najim, who is writing from Lebanon, and she writes, please tell us about your approach to playing, arranging, and improvising folk music on the marimba. What is the link between traditional folk music and improvisation on one side and learning in a classically trained context on another?
Okay, so first about the improvisation and classical, actually it's something that I really love to do in my, I don't know, in my concerts, in my projects. I'm always trying to make connections between classical music. Casey is going in his in his course somewhere.
Oh, that's his son is going to join us for a little bit.
So sweet.
Hi, Robin.
Coming from the music. Great. Okay. So improvising on classical music or on written music, actually, I really believe that origins of the music is in traditional music, actually, because a lot of I'm thinking about Brahms, Liszt, Bartók, Schumann, Schubert. So many composers are really inspired from the traditional music. So actually, we can hear the heart and the soul of the traditional music of different countries. And if you can hear to that, you can just continue the idea somehow, of course, not so greatly as them, but in your way, and just trying to put it nowadays in 21st century and do something with this. And for example, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, I start to rehearse again with my duo partner who is playing clarinet. His name is Rémi Delongle. And with him, we are doing really a lot of bridges between classical and traditional music. So, for example, we are taking De Falla, Manuel De Falla, so it's more Spanish. We just start from that, we play the theme and we just improvise. It's actually like jazz music, like jazz musicians are doing. They take a standard and they just develop with the components that we have in the composition. So I do the same way, actually.
It's so nice to hear. And I think one thing I find myself thinking and saying to students a lot is like, we get caught up sometimes thinking like, oh, I play this style of music or I play this style of music. And in the end, like they're all related and there's no, you know, it's music. Music is music. And
I really believe in that. Actually, really, my experience showed me that because, for example, with Rémi Delongle, we have this with the traditional music, but with Tomasenko, we play all this. He's really jazz musician player. So we are starting from Mozart, but we are just ending with something completely different. I'm playing with electronic music as well, electronic music producer. Her name is Chloe. And this was actually my latest collaboration. We just started. I was thinking, actually, we were contacted for playing Steve Reich music, Steve Reich, how we say in English, Steve Reich. And we were only two of us and we had to make something like remix. So we were wondering what we can do. And we were like, okay, let's do something on music for 18 musicians. So of course we are only two, so we cannot do it as it's written. So we just pre-record something, and after we were like, okay, let's just improvise with the components. So with patterns, constructing patterns, trying the phasing with effects that she's putting on the time, and after just opening in the middle and putting something from ourselves with experimentation of sounds, but with the same idea of rhythms that are just superposing. And yeah, so we just, and after we came back to Reich music, and actually after we liked so much this collaboration and the things that it opens to us, that we were just like, okay, now we experiment with this with Reich music, but now we can do our music and our things. So we just started, and we base everything on improvisation, actually. So we just start something, and after music is going and leading us in the paths that we even don't know we are going there. You know, it's something I really like, actually, that we are putting a frame, but we never know which color we are going to put in this frame, what we are going to build on the concert. We know very little things. And after we are just going, we are listening the sound, we listen to us, what we want to do now, what people want to hear now, and we just go and we just improvise. But yeah, I definitely think that the borders between styles are démodé already. I really think this. This does not mean that we should not play classical music and we should not go to the really pure and very, very classical or very traditional. I would love to go to this kind of concerts as well. But for me, for what we have today in 21st century, all this crazy life we have, for me now, everything is just going and we cannot stop it. So why stop something that is natural? Yeah.
Yeah, that's well said. That's
Yeah.
well said. You're such a versatile musician and you do so many things so well. And I think it's very helpful for our young listeners, especially to know the episode that you talked about how you wanted to go somewhere and you auditioned and it didn't turn out how you wanted it to. So you moved to another country and how you embraced an opportunity and how you played in the street to make money. But then, I mean, look at where you are now. It's absolutely incredible how far you've gone. It's like you're 100 years old, not like you're a young woman, with such a fantastic career. And so one of our listeners, Ante Kolesik from Poland, he asked, do you have any advice for young folks on how to get their first paid gigs? So how do you not go and say, I'll play in your church for free? How do you ask for money?
I had a student of mine and he was like, oh, Vas, I'm not like you. I really want to earn money very fast. I want to have a very nice car. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know how to help you with this. Okay, actually, if I have recommendation for young folks, for young students, what I can recommend is just to have fun when you play. For me, it's what worked actually. That's why I really love my father, because he never pushed me. He never said like, you should do like that, you should do like that. Of course, he's saying recommendation and advices, but it's never in a rude way. So actually for me, it was very important to have the spontaneous things, to have it like a play and really to enjoy the thing. So I think for young guys, this is the most important. And after, of course, for me, it came when I was 13. You need a moment in your life that you just decide this is going to be my job or this is going to be my profession later. For me, it came on 13. I really felt at that time that it's really my passion, that it's my life, and I'm going to do everything for continue doing music. It's pretty early, but so for somebody else it can be later, but or earlier. It depends on each person. But what I always say to my students is you have to remember this first time that you felt the thing, because after in your life you're going to have so many difficulties for sure, and you're going to need this like a small treasure. It's your treasure, and you have to open it and take this passion from it. For me it's very important, and I really remember, it's 2 points in my life. I remember the hour, I remember the place that I really just decided this was going to be my life. And to be paid, it's difficult to answer this, because I never thought like this, and maybe this is my romantic East European nature. I don't know, but even when I was making my competitions, I mean, I always made a competition. I always won a prize if I make competition. I never knew what is the price actually, what is the money price, even. And after I was like surprised, second prize, let's see, it's 7.5, great, I'm so happy. Or it's first prize, it's that, okay, great, so I can buy beers to my friends. Actually I was really not preoccupied of this, and it came later. And for me it's the most important that you love what you do and you're really patient. Things are going to come later, and really my life shows me this. If you're thinking more about the result before making the way to this result, maybe you can be disappointed. And if you're not thinking about this, you're only going to be very well surprised. I think.
We've called that the value of play on this show. Yeah. Several times and in several different variations, but I think you just gave us another example of one. Like if you're just doing what you love and what you enjoy, there's this whole hidden benefit behind it,
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, just like play what you love, play what you want to do, and all the the money and the gigs and the stuff like that should kind of naturally follow.
Yeah, they're coming naturally, because you become better and better in what you're doing. So people just want to hearing you more. They want to exchange with you. They want your advices for teaching and blah blah. But actually I really think that we have a great chance as musicians, because for the most of the time, of course, we are really passionate what we are doing, and when we say I have to go and work, I have to go and practice, actually you're doing what you love to do. And this is really very short percentage of people like this. I know so many people that are going to their jobs and they're really not so happy to go to their jobs. And for us, it's not really opposite way. So actually we just have to be so happy for that and just take this like a power in our lives.
You mentioned that at 13 you decided that you wanted to be a musician. This is what I'm going to do. I'm wondering, was there like a pivotal event or like certain circumstances that made you decide that, or you just felt it at that time?
Now, of course, there are certain things. First is the teacher in Bulgaria the professor who started all percussion school. Dobri Paliev is his name. He passed away in 97, I think. He was really great person because he was teaching everybody. My father is one of his students, and after he spread all his students in the country. So actually he really established the percussion school in the country. And he was in the jury when I was 13, and it was difficult period for my family. We didn't have a lot of money, and my father has to go and doing something completely different than teaching percussion for 1 year. And so we prepared, all his students were a little bit like shocked because we were without him for 1 year. And one of his older students took the position and he was teaching us. So we prepared a competition, and the competition was named Siegfried Fink, Dobri Paliev, because it was collaboration between both of them. It was in Sofia. And of course, I was very perturbed. I don't know if you understand this word, but because it's in French, I don't know if in English. I was disturbed because, of course, I was used to work with my father and he was not there. So I was practicing, but not really. So I practiced my xylophone a lot, and my snare drum was really like not that much. So I went to the competition and I played my xylophone. It was Siegfried Fink piece, and my snare drum. And after Dobri Paliev came, they gave me 4th prize. So I didn't have really a prize, but I have mallets. And after Dobri Paliev was like, you're going to play on the gala concert because your xylophone was really amazing and it was the best that we heard for the whole competition. But your snare drum, you should never play again like that. You should really, if you go for a competition, you have to be really ready. So it was great for me because he really encouraged me in a way, and in the same time he was just like like, no, it's in the same time it's not good. And I was like, okay, I really understood that if you want to be on the stage, if you want to go and be in a competition, you really have to be ready and really have to be there for saying something and saying in a right way. And the second thing, I fall in love with piano player, really amazing piano player in my eyes. And that time I was 15, so it was a little bit later, and I really like, I was really very impressed how he played Chopin music on piano, and I was like, I really want to do this for my marimba, and I really would love to perform one day also on marimba like a piano player. And yeah, it comes in this way.
Hey, I was going to ask a little about repertoire, because you have all these really cool videos up and you play all this really amazing, great rep. And I noticed that in the credits, when you cite some of the pieces you do in your little teaser, you play a piece of mine called Bad Touch.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's awesome. Can you tell our audience and like the world really like why that piece is so amazing?
Stop.
And Casey, to be clear, can we find this piece on Scribd?
Yeah, this is clear.
Casey, and I
Yeah.
hope that, because I already tried to invite you for my Bulgarian festival, and you were just like, oh, I'm very occupied.
Oh, really?
So now I'm inviting you live.
Why is Ksenia celebrating? I don't get it. Like, Ksenia's like, oh, gotcha, Casey.
So curious.
That doesn't feel, just so you know, Ksenia, that doesn't feel like a gotcha. It's like, oh, I was invited and I couldn't go or something. It's not like, oh, gotcha, bitch.
You're a bad
Maybe because you
person.
heard about Pleven, but now you know about Pleven. It's a great place. It's a place to be.
Of
It is.
course, I would love to go. Just sometimes I'm doing something else, so I'm not busy. But Ksenia's got this like, yeah, Casey, got you, bitch. Take that. I don't understand. Like, what did I do? But my real question was, how do you pick rep? And I think there's so many young composers out there that they look at someone like yourself and they think like, wow, she's so good and she plays at all the important places and makes all the wonderful recordings, and I would love to have my music in the hands of someone like that. So what is it that you find attractive about certain pieces of music, or are there other pieces of music that maybe you think, I don't want to play that?
Okay, so actually, I had different periods in my life. For example, when I was in Bulgaria, I played more arrangements and transcriptions. When I came to France, I started to play a lot of contemporary music because here they're crazy about that. And actually, it was great time for me because I discovered so many repertoire. And after I go to US to see what people they are playing, and now actually I almost do not play rap pieces for percussion because all my projects with Chloe, with Thomas, or with Remy, we are just doing our thing, and it's very difficult for me to pick again something. But when I do my solo concerts, I am thinking about repertoire, and actually how I pick things, it's more about the conception of the line of the whole spectacle, of the whole concerts that I would like to do. So I'm trying now. I'm like this. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow I'm not like this, but it's for a while. I'm trying to do a concert almost without a break. So I'm thinking how pieces can relate one to other and how I can connect them. So I'm trying something classical. If there is in certain tonality, I'm trying to continue with the same tonality, for example. After I would like to contrast with something, so I'm going to take something with musical theater or like piece of yours, or for example, for Bad Touch. Bad Touch actually I love because it's I do it. You have these 2 minutes in the beginning, so it's enough that I just finish a piece, it just start, I change, I go and I perform it, so it's perfect for in the middle of the concert, And yeah, I'm just trying to think about the story I wanna, the whole story of the concert I wanna give. So yeah, after I want something more groovy, so I'm thinking about multi-percussion piece. But yeah, this is how I'm. During my conservatory, I was thinking more about the challenge of the pieces. Now I'm thinking more about the story of the concert.
Right, the complete program.
Yeah. And actually, it's very difficult for me now to start playing repertoire pieces again. Really, actually, it was crazy because when I made Stuttgart competition, I had a small questions in my head just before the competition. I felt really I don't like at all the marimba repertoire. I really felt this 2 weeks before the competition. So I was in panic because I was like, okay, I'll go to this competition that I was dreaming about. I knew since I'm a kid, and I'm almost 2 weeks to go and to play there. And I just realized I don't like this repertoire at all, actually. So I was already in the Paris Conservatory. I think that's why I didn't like, because in Paris Conservatory, the aesthetic of teaching, my teacher there was Michel Cerruti, was completely different. It was more Pierre Boulez style. So we were concentrating only on this, and marimba repertoire is not at all like that. So I was like, maybe it's not the right thing, why I'm doing that, blah, blah. And I was really confusing. So I called back Sylvio, and he was like, come and we are going to speak about, I'm going to give you a lesson, we see. And he was so great because actually he found out in each of my pieces for marimba a connection with a great composer. He was like, hey, this is like Messiaen, hey, this is like Boulez, hey, this is like real Mozart thing, you can do it like that or like that. And he gave me so many references that it's really enriched my imagination, my musical imagination. So I found again the passion to play this repertoire. So when I went to Stuttgart competition, I really didn't care about how it's going to be, if I'm going to win or not to win. I was just really thinking about all my great composers' references, about the story I want to give to the people. I really felt like I'm playing a concert, and after it just worked out like that. And yeah, now after Stuttgart, I won this first prize. I just stopped playing marimba for year and a half. I was just like over with marimba, and now I'm back. I'm playing almost all the time only marimba, but I don't feel like I'm playing marimba. I just feel like I use this instrument to express myself, but that's all. I really don't think about should I do with this mallet or that mallet or blah blah. Before I was crazy about that. Now I'm like a jazz player. I just take two, 3 pairs of mallets, that's all, and I just do my thing. And I don't know, I really think much more about the message that I give to the people listening to me at that time. Yeah, maybe it will change again, I don't know. Now it's like that.
Well, I love your answer because it fits very much with how you said you like to play too. Like you should just play for fun, and like the important stuff follows the path of, you know, the joy you're pursuing. And it's like the same answer to composers, like, hey, don't try to target someone playing a specific piece, just like write what you genuinely want to write, and then someone like Vassilena might fit it into a complete program and find a good spot for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, Ksenija, why are you always starting fights? See, we get along fine.
We said that we need more drama on the podcast. It gets our ratings up. So we gotta fight. It's just
good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Screw you.
Screw you. I think that's beautiful what you said, Vassilena, that you essentially you play music. You don't play the instrument. You play music, which is amazing. But since you've mentioned music that you dislike, Ben now has a fantastic topic on music that we all dislike. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I don't know why. I know why, because Casey and I had some exchange a few weeks ago on Facebook in the comments somewhere, and like the topic of hold music came up, and I don't know why. I just wanted to go down this rabbit hole on telephone hold music, and one of my favorite websites is called Tedium. The address is tedium.co, not com, like we would normally have. And they have an article called Holding Patterns. Tedium writes what I would describe as really interesting articles on really boring topics. And then there's also an NPR article called The Mini Requirements of Hold Music, a Genre for No One, that I used to do some research on this as well. And hold music is actually, I found, so established now that it has its own trade group called the On Hold Message Association. And they even have their own award show. And in last year, I think it was, there was a Canadian business that won their awards. So there you go. But so basically, we're talking about telephone hold music, and the frustration of getting a human on the phone is Americans' second greatest annoyance after hidden fees. But this frustration of waiting for a human to answer the phone beats out for Americans inaccurate weather reports and dog poop, according to Consumer Reports. And so in the 1960s, after the first transatlantic phone cable was laid between Newfoundland and Scotland, there was a greater volume of calls being placed. And so this led to switchboard operators having to ask more people to hold. And so when you're sitting there waiting for someone to pick up the phone on the other side, there's a silence, and silence can make people think that a line is dead, and they will then hang up. So today, actually, some companies even transmit what they call a comfort tone over phone lines. It's a barely audible synthetic noise that signals that a connection is still active when talking. So in the 1960s, there was a guy named Alfred Levi, and he accidentally touched a loose wire to a steel girder, which is a support structure in his building, and it made his company's telephone system pick up broadcasts from a neighboring radio station. And so instead of being annoyed by this, he saw an opportunity. And in spring of 1962, he filed an application with the US Patent Office for a telephone hold program system. This patent was granted in 1966. So around this time, also businesses began using call centers to take calls. So it was a great way for people that called into a call center, they could have some sort of music playing while they waited. And around 2 decades later, in 1983, Levi and another guy by the name of John D. Paul filed for another patent that made a remote program selection where you could actually choose your hold music between different options. By around 1987, 92% of hold music was sourced from the radio. This was actually problematic for several reasons, including the fact that ASCAP designates hold music as public performance. So if you use it in this context without a license, it is actually illegal. And also, if you were on hold, say with your bank, you might, while you're waiting on hold with your bank, hear a radio advertisement for another bank. And there was a guy by the name of J.B. Seligman that realized this. He actually had that exact scenario happen. He heard an ad for a competing bank while he was on the phone. And so he decided to start a company called Digital Message Systems with his business partner, Byron Lancaster. He said he realized that they were 10 million business telephone systems in the US, but only about 100,000 accounts for message on hold companies, which left 99% of the market untapped. So there's a huge business opportunity to sell actual, like we'll call it custom fitted hold music to different companies. As a side note, this Seligman character sounds like a very interesting guy. He has a history with patent infringement, tax fraud, bankruptcies, and other lawsuits, and he now lives the high life in Bocas del Toro, Panama. So this music on hold phenomenon would lead to what we call messaging on hold, which was instead of playing just music while customers wait, you could actually help promote your business. So by the mid-1980s, there were companies like American Telephone Tapes that in this company, they would have music playing, but every 40 seconds or so, there would be an announcer with a quote unquote sultry voice that would break in to break up the music. In 1991, there's a company called Bogan Communications International, and they released a messages on hold system that allowed small businesses to be able to make use of hold music. The Smithsonian now has actually one of these machines in their collection, and this is what it looks like. Hopefully you can all see that. And so it's basically a tape recorder that if someone calls in, it will play the tape of the music. Just a few stats. There is a 1997 study from the Journal of Direct Marketing and a 2009 study from the Journal of Services Marketing that found that callers reported that they had shorter wait times and higher customer satisfaction when they had hold music during calls, even though the wait time wasn't necessarily, it was just their perception of the wait time. There was a 1993 study in the Journal of Music Therapy that found fewer callers to a protective services abuse hotline hung up when jazz music was played as opposed to relaxation music. In 1999, there was a study by a team of music psychologists, and they put out a newspaper advertisement soliciting callers. Callers were simply placed on hold to see how long they would wait before they hung up. And there were 3 things that were played. 1 was a repeating message, 2 was Beatles tunes, and 3 was panpipe covers of Beatles tunes. And curiously, the thing that got people to stay on the line the longest was the panpipe covers of Beatles tunes. They speculated that the familiar Beatles tunes might actually have made people sort of count how many songs they have heard, and it felt like wait times were even longer. There's now even a company called Beat Suite that specifically sells songs for hold music systems. And they said that they found some problematic selections that people were making. For example, funeral homes would want some really upbeat song like Walking on Sunshine, which was obviously not an appropriate selection if you were calling into a funeral home. And also a lot of companies wanted classical music, but they said classical music is problematic because the technical limitations of phone lines lead to heavy compression, and soft parts sound really fuzzy, loud parts sound really distorted. So this company has tried to compose, I guess, unique music for hold music calls. Hold music is now actually losing some traction. For one thing, we always expect to be given an estimated wait time when we call and hear where you are in the queue. Interactive voice response systems now take some time to route calls to the correct person. So this is talking about like press 3 if you're having a problem with your such and such. And some companies will now even allow you to hang up and receive a call back. And then the last little thing I wanted to report on, there's a conference call service called Uber Conference, unrelated to Uber, the car company or the the taxi service, so to speak. And this company allows users to select hold music while you're waiting for a concert call to start. And actually 9 out of 10 calls use this comedic song called I'm on Hold by Alex Cornell. And the song was basically recorded as a joke, but it's actually now become so popular that some people are downloading it to listen to on their own time. And Cornell was actually recruited to do a live performance for a company whose sales staff heard that song all day long. So that is everything I had to report about hold music, call hold music.
Would have never thought. So if you call the registrar's office at JMU, the hold music is a live recording of a piece of mine called White Knuckle Stroll, which if you know that piece, you would think, and like, yeah, Ben's laughing like, dude, that's not good hold music. It's like, it's in D minor, it's fast, it's intense, it's not relaxing at all. I mean, it's like a totally agitated piece, interjecting augmented chord, interjected fully diminished chord, back to D minor. Like, it's not a relaxing piece at all. And I actually tried to, I couldn't find who to talk to get it like taken off. So like, I just don't think this is a good choice, but obviously someone listened to it and was like, oh yeah, that's a good choice for the hold music. It's been that way for years here.
I would hope it was at least someone that knew you were a professor at the university, not just some like Casey Cangelosi fan.
Well, I think it's neither. I think it's just someone who, I don't know, they had access to recordings made at our performing arts center and said like, oh yeah, that's like kind of like sparkly sounding or something. But I'm always amazed at how awful hold music sounds. Like, why does it just sound like it's been recorded by this like super, super lo-fi awful tape recorder? And Ben, you touched on it a little bit. So like classical music's really problematic because of like compression, and there's so little you'll hear. So there's a problem with getting quality music just into the system at all, like into the call hold system. But also I read something saying that our phone speakers, you know, what we're listening to, they're only designed to output the frequencies that the human voice is at. So the range of music that we typically listen to, there's far lower frequencies and also frequencies well above it. So it's just not conducive to music, like anywhere, you know, in the system or in the place you're listening to it at.
Yeah, I mean, we have, you know, we're talking about analog phone lines for when it's just a bad signal. It's not an appropriate speaker for that. It might be playing literally from a tape player. It's funny you mentioned that. I actually found there was an anecdotal thing that it was like a Business Insider article from 2014 or 15. And basically someone said that they were on hold with Apple, and Apple's, you know, such a company that prides itself on its music, and apparently the quality was just terrible. And they emailed Tim Cook, the CEO, and they said the next day someone from California called them, and supposedly after this the quality of Apple's hold music has gone up exponentially. It's, you know, it's one of those things is like, did it really happen? I don't know, but there's a story there. But you mentioned at JMU, the hold music is White Knuckle Stroll. I don't know if this is still the case. I actually tried to call today just to check, but Steve Weiss Music, their hold music, they used to have Stubernick as their hold music. I remember calling in high school, and I heard this piece, and I had no idea of what it was. But I was like, oh, that's a cool sounding marimba piece. And then years later, I heard it. I was like, oh, that's the Steve Weiss hold music.
Somebody is thinking that when they find a recording of White Knuckle Stroll too, like some JMU student is like, oh, that's the registrar hold music.
Yeah, and then they hear it on the radio. They're like, oh, that's what that was.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I see why this person decided to play this as an encore. It's because it's the registrar's hold music. Awesome. Everyone knows that.
Very
good point.
If you put that on your website, I bet you'll sell more copies.
I bet so. Chosen by the registrar. The hold music.
Next time you can make also the history of the elevators music.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's funny you mentioned that, because like they said that like that part of this emerged. There was this phase of Muzak, which is like, you know, elevator music, department store music, and it kind of emerged alongside that as a calming.
Yeah, there is a story for Eric Satie. Apparently he was working about making this kind of hold music, but like the music for the entr'acte between the break in the concerts, and he was really mad because people just stopped to listen to him, and he was like, go away, this is just entr'acte music. Yeah,
it does intrigue me that like Eric Satie or like Brian Eno is another one. Like I'm sure someone else has come up with this term too, but like I call it like music to not listen to. It's not supposed to demand your attention. It's supposed to be unobstructive background music. And
Right.
yeah, it's so funny. Like, we work so hard to play, you know, White Knuckle Stroll and have people look at us and clap for us. And there is a market for music that no one should actually be listening.
Right, like a genre. I love the title was a genre for no one, you know, of the article. It's like, yeah, wow, that's such a correct description. It's like, yeah, it has to kind of be there and let you know, hey, we're still, you know, the line is still connected, and it's supposed to keep your attention a little bit, not frustrate you, but also not appeal to any particular taste.
Can't be too good. Can't be too good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Casey, I'll be sure, after I've now completed my research, I'll be sure to nominate you for that award from their association.
Yeah, is there an award for that? Oh, best elevator, best hold music?
Yeah, no, yeah, like I said, there's actually a professional association about this. And
I found the worst hold music ever. Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Okay. I don't know if it's like the worst ever.
you guys fight for copyright.
But it's supposedly, well, maybe it's Easy Pass. Hey, Robin, listen to this nonsense. You can say hi? I mean, can you all hear that?
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
Like, what is that? Like, that's just like weird noise. Hey. Well, we're doing a podcast now. We can't do trucks right now. Look, it's Robin. Oh, yeah, go play with trucks. Hi. Oh, here you go. But yeah, the worst hold music ever.
It
would just-
sounds pretty much like something some people might program on their percussion ensemble concert.
But not for
No.
It's clapping music. Yeah. I had a question, actually, if I can break in, moving off of hold music. Vassilena, you mentioned Sylvio Gualda, who we've mentioned a few times on the podcast before, and I think most American audiences aren't so familiar with this name, but he's very significant with especially the works of Xenakis. Could you tell us, because all I know is he was really instrumental in premiering a lot of Xenakis. Could you tell us about him?
Yes. I really love him, and it's crazy because today he wrote me. He's 81 now, and he's still in great shape. So yeah, he's somebody very important. Actually, he was timpanist of Paris Opera, but he was really passionate about contemporary music and percussion contemporary. And I think of course, we know him for Xenakis music, because they were actually really pretty good friends. He told me the story how they choose some metal pieces from Pompidou Museum in 80s when the museum was built. They were together with Xenakis and looking and trying the different pipes of the museum. I don't know if you know how it looks, but it's only huge pipes, and there was everywhere. So they were trying, and he was like, oh, maybe I take this, maybe I take that. Same for the stones. When they were on the seashore, he could stay for hours just choosing the sound of stones for Persefasa, for example. And Gualda was somebody he's very energetic. So I think that's why with Xenakis it works so well, actually, because he really defends his music on stage like nobody else at that time. I think he was just really completely crazy, because in the time that he premiered Rebounds and Psafa, nobody played things like this. And he received, for example, Psafa, and it was only all these points, and he was like, what should I do with that, you know? And actually he had to play, I think the premiere is in London, if I remember well, and he had to play it in 3 weeks. I mean, even nowadays, no percussionist can play it in 3 weeks. So he played what he could. He made something, but I think the audience was like crazy about this. And actually, there was not only Xenakis, there's also with Stockhausen. He was making a lot of Asia premieres, actually. Also, I don't know if you know Phoenix, the piece for vibraphone, and it's also Sylvio. So
it's vibraphone and tom-toms, right?
It's Vibe and nine skins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for example, Gualda loves that if it's played with congas, because we can tune them and it can be modal like the vibraphone thing, because very often we play it with tom-toms, and it's something specific he really likes if it's like that, like with tune instruments. Yeah, so he's really very energetic, very full of ideas of how he can interpret it. I think he's really a live music interpret more than recordings, because on his recording he always says he's not so happy with his recordings. But when I saw, actually I had the chance to see him only once playing, because when I started to study with him, he was already after 70 and he didn't play that much. So he played Carter pieces, improvisation and Canari. And I remember really like something very, very, very special, like the energy he put in and the story he said to people. It was really like very, very impressive. So
yeah, I just wanted to add, like, Safa in particular, it blows my mind, because we think about trailblazers in music history, like, you know, Beethoven in his day. But if you played Beethoven Symphony 4, when you get the score to Symphony 5, you probably think that, okay, I can do this. But I mean, Safa, there is no reference to what that is before it exists. It's, even the notation alone is so unique. And I think a lot of people, if they were handed that score, especially in 3 weeks or whatever, I mean, they would say, this is not playable. You know, like, go back and revise this.
But I think their relationship was so, like, friendship was so great, that actually Gualda really believed very hard in the music of Xenakis. I think actually, if it will not be Gualda, maybe we don't know Xenakis music, you know, because he really defended a lot this music, and he really believed that much. And actually he was touring all over the world playing these pieces that way, and now it's our classics, right? So I really think it's really very special person for us, for all percussionists all over the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was gonna say something similar. When I was learning Safa, it definitely took me longer than 3 weeks. I think it was more like 4 or 5 months, and the only thing that got me through it was knowing. What then?
So I thought you were gonna say it's more like 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh gosh, no. No, and even then you feel like you don't have enough time. But the only thing that got me through it and kept me thinking like, okay, this is doable, was knowing plenty of other people have done this piece. And I can't imagine, I thought, like, if somebody handed me a piece, you know, a young composer, somebody not established, handed me this piece to perform, I would have said, this is impossible. Like, do you realize what you're asking me to do? Like, that notation, and just, it's insane. So I'm grateful for Gualda as well.
Yeah. And actually I was student of him for 2 weeks, 2 years and a half, okay, starting with these weeks. And in the beginning, we didn't have that many lessons. He was making like master class. Actually, he was listening the people who are preparing competitions for orchestra most of the time, and also solo piece, but I don't know, that time it was more orchestra, and his classes were like master classes. It was open the whole day. He was coming Wednesday, Tuesday, and we were listening from the morning until the evening. And it was a big event actually. When he was coming, everybody was there already at 7:30 practicing snare drum, just warming up, and we were just waiting for Le Maître is coming, you know. And the whole my first year, I was just listening and I was just taking notes. Actually, I almost didn't have lessons. All my first competitions, for example, I prepared almost alone, and I was just playing something to him in the last moment. But what I wanted to say, just listening to him teaching music to everybody, it's so impressive, and so you can feel so many things that actually you don't really need to practice and to work exactly your piece with him. You can learn just listening him teaching other people for the main ideas. And before my IRD competitions, I had 2 or 3 lessons just before the competition, and I really remember how in one lesson everything changed for me, for my perception of how should I play the music. He was immediately giving me the covers I need, and he was speaking about dynamics. Basically, he really told me the relief of the music, your panorama is dynamic. This is the structure. If you don't have your dynamic scales, like at least 12 dynamic from piano until fortissimo, with all piano plus mezzo piano plus mezzo forte minus mezzo forte plus. He was thinking about this, all these micro changes. If you don't have your if you're not sure that everywhere in the piece you have the same cover for this and this, dynamic, people cannot understand the architecture of your piece. So we were working on that, and I remember only for one lesson, everything, the picture of my whole piece completely changed actually. And this is one of the most important lessons I learned actually, that now I'm giving to my students, and I'm doing when I play a contemporary piece, for example. I always think about this architecture, the picture, the relief that you're giving. So yeah, he was pretty impressive as a teacher. Yeah.
That's wonderful. We have another question from our listener, Antek Olesik. I'm not quite as good with the names as Ksenija is, from Poland, and he asks, what do you think is essential to being a successful concert artist besides being a tremendous musician?
I think just being yourself and trying to make original things. Maybe this is the most difficult for me, at least, because, for example, now I'm actually doing my life by solo concerts like duo or my projects. I started to teach actually last year in Lausanne, in Switzerland, and I'm teaching in Paris, but just a little bit. So the essential of my job is actually performing. And what I find is the most difficult is always to renew yourself and to find new ideas. My agency, for example, are always asking me, what is your new project for this year, or what we are going to defend this year. And of course, for example, very often I tell them, yeah, it's again, for example, with Tomasenko, but we are doing another project. Now we are working on a new CD, which is coming soon with Sony Music on in March 21, and it's on Bach music. So we start from Bach, but we are like preparing and making completely different ways. We just start from there and we just go again somewhere else. But for example, now I just started a new project with a singer. During the lockdown, I was in Bulgaria, and she was in Bulgaria as well. She's Bulgarian, but living in Berlin. And we were like becoming crazy with being in Bulgaria without doing concerts and doing nothing. And we just met for first time, and we just exchanged ideas. And we were like, hey, why we don't do something about women, actually? We are thinking about the mystical women beginning or something like that with the legends and myths. So it's like our idea. And we started to construct our rep around this idea. And actually, we really started to love each other. We didn't know before, but it was just like that. And I'm so happy because it's original. It will be voice with percussion and marimba. But the idea of the mystical women beginning, it's also something new and original for me. And so I think it's a good point for me this year, because each year, the most difficult each season, you have to come out with something new, actually. People want it works like this. So it's the most difficult for me is that actually to find ideas. So to be successful, maybe that's one of the key. Try to always reinvent yourself. And what helps me a lot actually is being inspired by different artists. I'm going to exhibitions all the time. I'm reading a lot. I'm speaking with people, watching movies, and blah blah blah. So I think it's more, yeah. One of the most important things is that to be inspired all the time, trying to, and also I never make. Actually, this is the first time I'm thinking about this. This women thing. It's first time in my life I try also to reflect the actuality. Normally I do not do that. I don't think I really want to do something like that. But I read one book which impressed me a lot. I can show you actually. Wait a minute.
Oh my God, we're talking about books. Now we're finally the podcast that I've always wanted us to be.
Why don't you join a book club?
I have a book club. It only has one member. Only one friend of mine will handle me in my book.
Is it,
I thought you were going to say one member and it's you.
Right.
Well, I'm the president. Excuse me.
Are the debates heated?
Very, very. Let's see what the book is.
No, it's this one. Clarissa Pincula Estes. And after it's in French, but the name is Women That Are Running with
Wolves.
Luf, yeah. And actually, it's about the tales. All over the world, she's a tale speaker. Yeah, she's saying tales. And she said that she's taking tales and she's analyzing the archetypes of people and the way of thinking via the tales. And she says it's specific on the women things, the women way of thinking, the women beginning of each of us actually, man or woman. And it's very interesting for me because she said it changed so much. We changed. We took only the tales which goes okay with the society and the country we are living, and we are just erasing tales because it's not okay for the society that way. So, for example, just thinking about communism, they cannot say something, so they just put out the tales. So she tried to just to put to like a small treasure actually. And we were speaking about this, and actually it really impressed me a lot, and I'm really happy because I'm gonna do something about this book. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, is it okay to answer?
No, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I'm always just dividing somewhere else, but yeah.
That's incredible.
Sorry.
Vasi, we have a few more questions from our social media. We want to make sure we answer them all. And so we're going to try to do these very quickly because Casey's got to go. So we have a question from Niels_Vom, for example, I think from France, who asks, what type of mallet do you use to play Mozart?
I play now my mallets because Vibroware, it's a Vibroware French mallet company. They made my series of mallets, and since I made this, actually I'm playing almost all the time only with this. So it's my name, Vassilena Serafimova, Vibroware. Before I play a lot with Keiko and Kolberg. So all my competitions I made with Keiko's mallets and Kolberg, Yasmin Kolberg. But now I still keep them because I'm attached to them, but I play my mallets now.
Don't you think you should use timpani mallets because those are the only mallets around during Mozart's time? Wouldn't that be more accurate?
If I play timpani mallets or what? When I play Mozart or marimba, you think?
Marimba, whatever. Yeah. No. Bad joke.
Bad joke, really bad joke.
I'm gonna write a new piece called Bad Joke.
I don't play timpani anymore, so no.
The next question is from our friend Jade Hales from Oregon, who asked, what do you find to be the most challenging and rewarding aspect of playing in a piano duo?
Wrong notes. Yeah, because it's not fair, but he's just putting his fingers and he's touching the things, and we have all these like mallets and we cannot touch our instruments. So yeah, so this in the tuning also, it's a big deal with piano. Yeah, but if not, both instruments are percussion, so it works well. You should be completely in time. This is something that we can hear immediately if you're not playing together, because it's the attack, the attack should be together. But also thinking about registers, if we play on the same time on the same register, we are eating the sound of the other one. So when we are arranging, we are thinking a lot about that, how to dispatch the music, so we have the whole range like an orchestra, and not being in the same place. Only if we want to be like one, in that time we can do these kind of things, but if not, yeah. So yeah, time, tuning, and thinking about the range of the instruments. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Thanks. Another question from Gogo_piano, again from France, we think. And we had to interpret this one a little bit. Gogo Piano said, you play like you have 3 arms. How is this possible?
Like 3 arms? I don't know how to answer, but thank you. I'm an octopus.
Yeah. Another question from Elsa on Instagram, and this is again a question that I'll let you interpret. How is it to be a female percussionist? And then, too bad there is so much more men, ...
Yeah, too bad, Ksenija.
Too bad.
Yeah, no, I just think that I don't think really like that. I think it depends on the moment, on the country. For example, recently there was somebody making a research in France about the women in orchestras. So apparently here in France there are not many of them, and so we don't know if it's like a privilege or it's just like it happened like that. But for example, I was searching in Bulgaria, and I found out that there are more women than men. So actually, it depends on country. Maybe communism was good in that with these things. So yeah, it depends. So, but being women as a percussionist, being women in the life. So yeah, it's just a woman in a life. It's just like being what you are, and you're playing with what you are. Yeah, that's all. Sometimes, actually, to be honest, sometimes we can notice that there are in the festivals, for example, for electronic music, because I really have this appreciation because we are playing with Chloe. Sometimes you have posters with only us as women and only men DJs also, but we are trying to change little by little. I think everybody is now alert about that, and people try to do more equal, and I think little by little it will come. Yeah.
Another one, and we think this might be an inside joke. It came from a Tomasenko who said "Tropaneskrak."
Okay.
That's it. That was it, and the question mark.
It's just a joke between us. Never mind. It's in Bulgarian. Actually, that means I'm hitting with my foot on the ground. That's all. It's great.
Good. Hi, Thomas. Here
He knows to say "Tropaneskrak," and he knows to say "You're very beautiful, mademoiselle. You're a very beautiful girl." So that's all he knows in Bulgarian. We are playing together for 11 years. So that's all.
That's all you need to know in Bulgaria, though, right?
That's all you need to know in Bulgaria. It's what he says. It's
all, yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, speaking of Bulgarians, we have to ask one other question. Oh. How shall I phrase this delicately? Can you give us some dirt on Svet?
So we are all Svet students besides Casey.
So I'm just going to leave.
Or I'll phrase it in a nice way. What was Svet like growing up?
Svet was crazy about practicing. Okay, so that maybe this didn't change a lot. So actually he was just coming in the school, and he just opened it and he just closed it almost every day. And actually he came when he was maybe 16. He was not from the beginning in the class of my father, so only 2 or 3 years. And he was pretty cool. He loved to party, but not that much actually. He was more concentrate on practicing. And I don't remember, because I was younger. I think I'm 5 or 6 years younger than him. So we were not in the same, how you say,
generation, friend group maybe.
Yeah, so I was just looking at him like a hero, because he was like the older guy and he was playing so good, but he was practicing really like crazy already at that moment. Yeah. But I don't remember like funny things. I have to think about, if I remember something, I'll write it down, guys, and we will just put it in a plus. But I'm going to think about.
Yes, please. Ben is trying to put a collection together of all the bad stories about Svet that he can. Long-term research project.
Yeah, it's going to be my second dissertation.
Wonderful.
If you're listening, we love you.
No, of course. This is all coming out of deep respect and love and admiration. I think we've gone through our questions, and obviously we've done actually quite a longer episode than we planned. Thank you so much. Ben, Karli, did you have anything else that you wanted to add? No, we're good. Okay, so in that case, Vassilena, thank you so much for being with us today. It was a true pleasure.
Karli, Ben, Ksenija, and Casey, who left us, but he's going to listen later. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really great to meet you. I hope we can meet somewhere. Come to Europe one day, and so we meet all here, or maybe I come to US, and yeah.
Let's hang out on both continents. Let's do both.
We can go easily again will be great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Vasi, and we look forward to seeing everything that you're gonna be doing in the next year, and especially that new album. I'm really excited. I love
Actually,
your new album.
there are two albums. The one is with Chloe and with Thomas, because with Chloe we just record on the airport in Orly 3 videos during the night. We had the whole airport only for us. We just installed marimba and machines and just played during the night. You know, it was crazy. It was in November, and just 2 months later we had all this corona thing, so the airports was again the same, so we saw it before, you know. It was crazy. But yeah, our album is coming also next year with Chloe, so there are 2 albums. I'm super excited. I can't wait that people can hear and we can share this music.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you to our listeners. We'll catch you on our next episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.